Hot Springs Village Inside Out is a closer look at the greatness of Hot Springs Village, Arkansas and the surrounding areas. People, places, experiences. Hot Springs Village is one of the most beautiful places on earth. Join me, Randy Cantrell, and my co-host Dennis Simpson as we engage in weekly conversations to explore Hot Springs Village Inside Out. Today's show is brought to you by Central Arkansas's favorite radio station, KVRE. Find them on the dial at 92.9 FM. Stream them live at kvre.com. Ike Eisenhauer State Farm. Ike and his award-winning team have been serving the insurance needs of folks all around Hot Springs Village since 1998. Ike is qualified for State Farm's President's Club, Chairman's Circle, and Hot Springs Village Insurance Agent of the Year. Call Ike Eisenhauer State Farm today at 501-984-4100. That's 501-984-4100. Find them online at ikeeisenhower.net. Call them today for all your insurance needs because, like a good neighbor, Ike Eisenhauer State Farm is there.
Hot Springs Village Inside Out, Dennis Simpson, Ike Eisenhauer, the man who burned down his own building. Let's hear this story. This is a fun episode, yeah.
How many chances in life do you have to burn down a building with permission from the fire department?
I got to get me one of these gigs. How did you do this? Tell us the story.
Okay, so when we bought this land across from Sonic, and there was an old restaurant here. At one point, it was the Stakeout. Then it was the Bangkok Thai restaurant. And anyway, it was this old log building, and the way that the land was, the way it was sat on the land, it was kind of like off center, and the driveway that cuts right down the middle of the property was at a slant. And so we had to straighten things out to be able to fit everything. And so this building was in the way. And so anyway, I had one of my employees, her husband was chief of the fire department at Jessieville. And I said to her, you think we could burn the building down? And
because you got a quote on what it would take to tear it down, right?
Yeah, it's logs. It's like a log building. It was heavy logs. It's like, I know it's going to cost a fortune to get rid of it. And so anyway, she asked her husband, he's like, yeah, we could do that. So on a Friday night in probably 2002 or something like that, 2001, 2002, we came out one evening and got the fire trucks there. It was we had to wait till like 9 or 10 o'clock at night or something so the traffic would die down.
The State Farm weenie roast.
Yes. And so anyway, the one thing that they could not light the match. I had to light the match. So anyway,
is this a liability thing with insurance or something?
Yeah, liability thing. Yeah. So it had to be me, And so anyway, and it was this building. I didn't have any insurance on it or anything like that because if the thing burned down, it would have been a favor to me. It's like, why would I insure something like that? So anyway, so I went in there. We went into the kitchen, which was full of grease. Oh, and also somebody had been training dogs there too, an obedience school for a while from the guy that I bought the land from.
So it smelled lovely.
So yeah, it smelled like dog urine and grease. And so we went in there and piled a bunch of old cardboard boxes, and I lit it. The smoke started rising up in there, and that's when we found out how many wasp nests were in the place because they were not very happy. And so anyway, thank goodness the smoke dulled their senses a little bit. But anyway, so we went running out of there, and anyway, it did not take long before that fire ripped through the roof, and that thing burned from about 10 o'clock at night to about 2 o'clock in the morning before they finally put it out. And I would say at that time, probably about 2/3 to 3/4 of the building was gone. And so anyway, made for a much easier cleanup. And so anyway, but it was a lot of fun. It was a training
exercise for the fire department too, right?
Yeah. So anyway, and so I had my daughters and my wife there, and so we were over at the Sonic watching from across the street.
A safe distance away from the wasp.
My older daughter was she was horrified. She was, and my younger daughter, she thought it was pretty cool, and so we were going over and we were throwing rocks at the windows, trying to break the windows and let some air in there to help the fire and everything. And we had cranking on the car radio. We had Talking Heads burning down the house.
Oh my God, I love it. Thanks. You had shared that one time before. We were back in the little lunchroom you have back there, or the meeting room, and I was like, "This is a great story. I wanted to hear that and share that with our group."
That was a lot of fun. Yes.
So
yeah, absolutely right. It's it's chilly. It's been a chilly week for us.
I was actually planning on having Bermuda shorts, and no, that just didn't work out. That just didn't work out this week. Well, Brian Ike, our brand new sponsor, we're thrilled to have you on board, but we think you and Clara are the 1-2 knockout punch of advertisers here in the village, and it's a joy to have you.
Well, it's look, if it's good enough for Clara, it's good enough for me. It's like I always Clara and I always joke with each other. It's like we always see each other at the same things. We always sponsor the same things. It's for Clara and me, I mean, we're, all the sponsorships we do, it comes out of our pocket, it's not corporate funded or anything like that. And so for us to be involved in everything, we both feel the same way about being proud to support the community. And so, I mean, we have a lot of commonality that way.
Well, there's a lot of things I say, and for those that know me by now, there's a lot of things I don't say, but I will make note there's a lot of people in the village that will rah, we're all for the team, we're going to do that, but they just don't quite get their checkbook out, if you know what I mean, Ike. And you and Clara, you get out your checkbook, if you know what I mean.
Oh, thanks, Dennis. Yeah, it's, like I say, this, we're filming this right before Thanksgiving and coming up on things that we're thankful for. And Hot Springs Village, I've been here in a couple of months. It'll be 25 years since I moved here and started this agency. And we've been very blessed to raise a family in this community, to build a business in the community. We've got one of the biggest state farm agencies in the state, one of the most successful state farm agencies in the company. And it's all because of the blessings we have for being here in Hot Springs Village with, this wonderful area with wonderful people and so very, very blessed. And so we're just happy to give back, and
I'll be very frank. I don't think, and for the outside viewer, because I realize every time Randy and I made a horrible mistake. I say horrible. We made a big mistake, and that was, we'll make a local podcast. No such thing, apparently. Who knew?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But all that to say, I really don't think you and we can talk for the next hour and a half and not explain how unique the village is. You talk about what frankly a home run you guys have hit with insurance here in the village. It's the market, it's the people, it's the opportunity, everything, right?
Right. I mean, it's a total package. A few years ago, I remember we were sitting around talking about the lottery got really big, like it did a couple of weeks ago. And we were talking about, man, if you won the lottery, where would you move? It's like, I don't think I'd move anywhere. Like I would travel and see things I want to see, but I like coming home to here, and one of the things about like when COVID hit and we're stuck at home, and it's like, it's actually kind of nice to enjoy where we live, because, rather than go away to have fun,
It could be worse. It could be worse, right? Trapped in a resort. Oh my God, how terrible.
Absolutely. Yeah. They still let us golf.
Well, exactly. Or bowl or, whatever. Yeah.
Go to the lake. Yep.
Well, I tell you what, let's go in and let's chat about, I mean, we think about insurance, and pardon me, but it's nearly one dimensional. I think of home and auto, and that's what it is. So much more, wouldn't you say? And in these inflationary times, tell me how much more. What is it?
Yeah, well, first of all, inflation has hit us as much as it has hit anybody else. Everybody knows if they tried to build a home in the last couple of years, just how much building materials have gone up, and see it, and same things happen on the auto side, and so on the homeowner side, a lot of people, when you look at the coverage amounts on the homeowners policies, a lot of people don't realize the coverage amount on your house goes up as construction costs go up. And so there's an inflation factor built into your homeowners policy. So I mean, there was at one point in 2021 where year over year inflation on homeowners coverage amounts was about 19%. I mean, that's how much things skyrocketed back then. Now it's calmed down a little bit more.
What was it? Was it the cost of materials, or was it just the value of the homes that they're being built? I mean, I don't understand as much.
The cost of materials and construction materials and labor and things like that. But mostly it was shortages of construction materials. Remember, real estate market was really booming back then. Houses are being built, at a clip higher than we've seen in 15 years. And since the 2008 housing collapse, it was the biggest boom in construction, 2019, 2020. Still, there's still inflationary pressures on the upside, but it's calmed down quite a bit. But yeah, your homeowner's policy reflects that. So if you had a $200,000 coverage amount, next year your house is renewing at like $238,000. So it was major jumps.
So how do we protect ourselves here? And I want to come back to let's start home, break it down in pieces, and start home and
Sure.
come back to auto. But so I've got a house that's 50 years old. Thank you, Lord. It's a beautiful spot on the lake, like your house on the lake. And we're blessed, literally blessed, just to be able, it's not a money thing. It's just to be able to find here and live here.
Right.
But the value of the land has gone up a little, but the value of the house sitting on it, maybe 40%, right?
True. But your homeowner's policy doesn't pay for the land. It doesn't, it's not a measure of appraisal value. It's a measure of construction cost.
Rebuild cost, you mean, right?
Right. Because if your house burns down, we are concerned about building it back the way it was. So anyway, that's why we tie it to construction cost index.
Yeah. Well, okay, God forbid, knock wood, God forbid a home burns down and all the possessions therein.
Sure.
I think I'm like you. Possessions are nice and they're okay, but they're no substitute for our family and our other facilities. How do you? I mean, I'm looking at a couch and a chair and a TV, and how do you appraise all that? Do somebody have to go through and say, I lost a TV, I lost a cabinet, I lost a whatever? Really?
Yes. And because of that, I recommend to everybody, take pictures of every room in your house, just or videos. And if you do a video, you can say, hey, I bought this house. I bought this couch 15 years ago for around $2,000. It's a whatever type couch. If you can put as much detail as you can. At the very least, just take pictures of everything in the house. And because God forbid that time come, you're going to have to inventory what you lost and what you're replacing it with. And so anyway, it's not an easy task. For us, we have claims adjusters that help you with that. We'll let you take a few shortcuts. We don't make you remember how many pairs of socks you had in that drawer. You can say, I had let's say 50 long sleeve shirts and I had 12 pairs of underwear, things like that. And, so we don't make you go in that much detail. For the big things, the things that are high dollar, harder to replace, things like that. If you have pictures, it will really help you get through that process. I mean, just think of one shelf in your living room and all the books and knickknacks and everything that are on that shelf and everything, and try to remember everything that you had there. Not easy to do. If you have a picture, it helps a ton. So anyway, I really recommend that because you do have to do that. We pay replacement cost on your contents. Um, if you don't replace it, it's just actual cash value. So like if
Right.
you had 4 TVs, but you're not going to replace one of them, then we'll pay you actual cash value on that fourth TV, but replace the others with brand new TVs.
Wow. Okay. Luckily, thank you, Lord, nothing's ever happened that way. I was just thinking, I have a buffet in the front hallway, the little vestibule when you come in our home.
Mm-hmm.
And it, number one, it's heavy as lead, I can tell you that, but it's
Mm-hmm.
probably 125 years old, maybe 130, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe paid $400 for it. And I'm thinking, you know, in another 5 years, I may not remember that I paid that much money for it. You know,
Yeah.
maybe now's a good time to walk through with the camera and kind of document this was this and this was that and that was this, right?
Yeah, it's a smart thing to do, and I think the last time I did it was maybe 3 years ago. I keep telling people this story, and I say, yeah, it's time for me to go get new pictures, and I keep forgetting to go home and do it. But it doesn't take very long to do, and like I say, it helps a ton. And there are some things. I mean, um, unfortunately, we've had several fire losses, and anyway, and I know since I moved here 25 years ago, I used to say, yeah, I could easily name you 12 house fires that have happened here, and since then there have been several others, and so yeah, I mean it happens, and you need to be prepared for the worst.
Well, one of the most recent, and just to show people how it happens, because I hadn't thought about that till you said that, but over on, what is the one south of Lake Coronado, Murcia?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lightning strike. I mean, who, well, we're not going to have a fire. We're very confident. We have fire alarms and we're very confident. You can't block a lightning strike.
No,
It happens. It happens. Right.
right.
Well, how does that equate also when we're talking about cars? Because boy, if you think the real estate market's been upside down, cars have been even crazier.
Right.
Insane used car prices.
Mm-hmm.
A 1998 pickup truck with 400,000 miles, only $10,000. You're like, well, I sent that to the crusher a year ago, 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
How do y'all compensate for that?
You know, your homeowner's policy has it built in because your coverage amount goes up as with inflation, but your auto policy does not. And
Oh,
so the only way to remedy that is to take a rate increase. And all of my competitors, as well as State Farm, we've all taken rate increases this year, and most of us have more rate increases to come.
we're not done.
Because you just can't keep up with it. I mean, just think of, well, first of all, you have parts shortages. You have uh, rental cars hard to find, so people are maxing out their rental car coverage. I mean, we had a customer, poor guy. I mean, had a uh, shortage of parts, and his car is stuck in Memphis for 3+ months waiting for a part and thank goodness he had another car to drive,
Oh my
because there's a
goodness.
lot of folks out there, they max out their rental coverage, and they're still waiting on the cars to be fixed, and it's not their fault, it's not our fault, it's not the shop's fault. I mean, it's just a shortage of parts, and so anyway, used cars are just up 40%.
Really? I
you
knew
know
there was a number, but 40%.
40%. Yeah,
Do we see
40%. And
do we see that changing anytime soon? I know we know there's more inflation to come. We haven't wrangled it down yet.
yeah, I think recession has a way of settling things like that. And unfortunately, um, we're not in the best economic times out there. And so anyway, but yeah, that's a lot of it is um, just availability of rental cars, and I mean the
Supply
availability,
chain issues.
supply chain issues, so anyway, and as money gets tight, people don't buy new, they buy used cars, and that puts upward pressure on those prices. So anyway, all that stuff, you throw that all together, and you're looking at probably for most companies 20% or so on
Wow.
indicated rate needs for auto insurance. We just took a 5.2% in September here at State Farm, and we're on the low end of the spectrum compared to our competitors. Yeah.
Well, no,
but it's
that
not,
number
5.2% is probably not going to be enough to do it, but it's enough for us to buy us a little bit of time while we wait for things to settle down in the market, so maybe things will get back to normal a little bit.
Normal, that's a setting on the dryer, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, it's always come to me, and I love the idea of documenting all your property. Very, very important. And I realized there was a time for Diane and I, as we were building a home together of sorts, I realized we would change out furniture every year and a half or 2 years or whatever. We'd upgrade and move this to a rental or whatever. And I realized I haven't documented that in forever. And that's a great suggestion.
Yep.
As far as auto, what are the ins and outs of picking the right policy? I don't want to pay a high deductible, so I'm not gonna have a wreck. You're not in charge of that, by the way. You don't get to determine that,
No.
So what's your advice on that? What's the right structure to buy for car insurance?
I think first of all, the most important coverage that you have on auto policy is your liability coverage. That's the one that protects you against a lawsuit. So if you get sued for $1 million, you want to have that kind of protection should it happen. We've had $3 million plus claims in my agency. One of them was $1.9 million. He actually had a $2 million liability umbrella policy that protected him, and we ended up paying every dime of it. So anyway, that's the most important coverage.
Well, let me
interrupt, as much as you can reasonably afford.
I apologize. Let me interrupt just for a second, because when I was a kid, $1 million sounded like an incredible amount of money nobody would ever get to.
Sure.
Yeah, I remember there was a Saturday Night Live skit with John Belushi back during the inflation period of 76 and 77. He said, I think we're all going to be millionaires if inflation continues at this rate. Just the average guy will be a millionaire,
True.
As these numbers increase. $1 million is not that crazy out of sight, is it?
It's not.
Not with medical bills. And
had a customer come in a few months ago, had a lawsuit filed against him for an accident that happened the year before. There was multiple cars involved, and just one of the people involved sued him for $1 million. Just one of them.
Just one.
And so anyway, those things happen. Happen. I mean, the guy with the $1.9 million claim, he was young retiree, in his 60s at the time, I believe, and statistically, maybe the safest driver on the road. Guy with a lot of experience, not racing around in his 20s, and or not driving in his 80s with physical impairments or whatever. I mean, just statistically, the safest guy on the road, and it happened to him. He hit somebody on a motorcycle, and the guy ended up losing a leg. And we paid $1.9 million, and the guy deserved to get it.
And that's why they call it an accident. Nobody meant for it to happen. The guy on the bike.
I mean, it was his fault, but it's the kind of thing that could have happened to any one of us.
Well, let me tell my story just for a second, and just to give the audience a background here real quick. I had, I think you don't think you might have mentioned it. I had a policy that was the best I could find. And I had shopped around for all of our rentals and our house and our auto, and thought I was doing pretty good. And it was Farmers, and a guy that I met that I'd known online from Northwest Arkansas, Jeffrey Daniels, great guy, no problem at all. And I'm thinking, okay, I got a pretty good deal. I walk in, sit down with, why am I blank on your assistant's name, who just got her
Joy Pickering.
Joy.
Pickering,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, she's been with me for 20 years.
What was the award she just won?
22 years. It was an award. She's getting registered. She's working on becoming a registered rep so she can help me with securities products. And
really?
She passed her securities industry essentials exam recently. So anyway, more exams to go, and then she can be a registered rep and help out.
I had a friend, we're going to come back to that in just a minute. I had a friend that did that, and I remember from a Bible study class, and man, the amount of time we prayed on that section 5 he was working on, man, there was a hard bunch of tests.
Not an easy exam.
Yeah, but I say that to say, I came to you guys, true testimonial, sat down, went through all this with joy, saved on everything, $250, $300 a month total of the whole package. And then she leans over and says, "You want the umbrella package, don't you?" And I'm like, can I afford me an umbrella package or what? And she was like, "Well, it's $20 a year." And I'm like, I'll take 2. Yeah, give me 2 of them umbrella thingies. Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about that. How does this work?
So the umbrella policy is a policy. Well, the reason they call it an umbrella is that it protects everything that's underneath it. So that can be your home, can be your autos, could be a rental dwellings, up to 4. We can do recreational vehicles, golf carts, boats, things that the ordinary person would have liability need to protect. And so the minimum is $1 million. More and more inflation sets in, the more we're doing $2 million umbrellas, or even $3 or $4 or $5 million umbrellas. And so anyway, and it gives extra liability coverage. So when the liability coverage runs out on your auto policy or your boat policy or your homeowner's policy, then the liability policy kicks in and picks up the rest. And so it gives you that extra layer of coverage. It builds a big wall of protection so that somebody suing you is not going to get after the assets that you need to live on for the rest of your retirement.
And I don't mean this wrong, but isn't that really what we're looking for?
Yeah. I always tell people when I'm talking with customers, like, if you think you don't need it, Google it. Just find one article that will tell you, no, it's a stupid waste of money. It's like, you won't find one. It's like all the articles say, it's a smart thing to do. So anyway, Google it. Yeah,
that is a great idea. Well, and I want to make note, for the last, when did I start? Late 90s, I started working with trial lawyers, Mike Rainwater, who everybody knows, Sexton Holt, Duncan Rainwater, all these guys, Gary Green. I worked with all these guys, and I did their IT work. Wonderful guys, love them, literally love them. Just wonderful, great friends. And I remember after a few months of working with all these trial lawyers, I thought, man, they just tell you the worst case scenario about everything. Dennis, I'm considering doing so-and-so. Well, if that breaks, then you'll have to do so-and-so, or somebody drowns, or and by God, if eventually it doesn't happen, you're like, what, how do you, there's a group of people that works for your company that people that don't know need to know. There's a group of people called actuarials. What exactly do they do? Just fill in our guest, if you would.
So the actuaries are the ones, they're the mathematical statistical geniuses that crunch all the numbers and stats to determine what, the likelihood of accidents for people, for vehicles, for homes, the frequency of claims, the severity of claims. They do all that kind of stuff. And it's such pointy-headed mathematics that very few people know how to do it, and the ones that do, they get paid extremely well. And so actuaries, it's a mathematical scientific field where if you know anybody who's really good at math and likes that kind of stuff, there's a great financial future for them, because they're in high demand.
There's a great calling for that these days. And
absolutely.
I had a friend that was an actuarial from the Northeast and moved down to Arkansas. He actually owns Horticare in Little Rock. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to him one day, and he said, they don't call us estimators, Dennis. They call us actuarials. Yeah. And I said, why? He said, because we actually know the odds of you having a wreck when you get in the car, and that wreck being more than this many dollars within this many miles of your house, they actually have figured all that out. They actually know. So
it's crazy how accurate they are.
Well, when you get a database that's big enough, Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you a story. So for years, I started in fire underwriting. So fire policies it's an insurance term for that encompasses homeowners, liability umbrellas, boats, manufactured homes, a lot of things like that. And so anyway, and I started in underwriting, and in Arkansas, we were every year the actuaries would come down and say, you need to have, massive rate increase. You're just not rate adequate. And so they do that. And we'd have these, when I got up into management, I'd sit in on the meetings, and there would be all the agency people out there saying, you can't do that to us. We won't be competitive. And anyway, so they'd end up settling for something halfway. And next year, guess what? Not only do we need the other half that we didn't take, but we need more, And so anyway, it was just this terrible underwriting cycle that happened for years. And in like 2009, they introduced what they call a consumer rating index. And all insurance companies use something like this now. It's not a credit score. But they do take information that you can find on a credit report. They take information that we know about you personally from your policies, your payment history, your claim history, whatever. Now, they don't tell us agents what goes into that, because our actuaries, they consider it proprietary information. We think our models are better than the others, and anyway, a lot of companies that are smaller, they just use a Fair Isaac score. And you don't know what Fair Isaac is, but a lot of people know what FICO score is, your credit score. And the FI in FICO is Fair Isaac. And so they actually do something, and it's not a measurement of your ability to pay back a loan. So it's not like a credit score. It's a measurement that predicts your loss history. And the very first time they introduced it to us, they actually told us what was in there. And it was the weirdest combination of things. And it would be like number of claims involving rental coverage, or the number of gasoline credit cards, just weird things like that. And they flat out told us, like, we don't know how it works or why it works. We just know that it works. And because when you take this and then you could put it in combination with that, you get a high correlation of claims to of that and claims history. And then you throw in all these other factors, and next thing you know, they had like 15 different factors. Or right now it's probably like dozens of factors, but it's crazy. So they introduced that in homeowners policies here in Arkansas in 2009. State Farm did. And since then, our rate history has been like flat. It's like most years. I mean, if you get a little bit of a rate increase, just the rate itself, there's so many factors that factor into it, but the rate itself, the base rate, is pretty flat. And so most years it's not much more than just the inflation increase. And so anyway, and that was what, 13, 14 years ago. And about 13 years ago. And over the years, we just every year we get more and more competitive because our rates stay the same, and others don't, because we just figured out. Now maybe our actuaries do have a better model than everybody else.
Well, and it's one thing, like I say, when there's a big enough data pool, they would say it's child's play. Yeah, I mean, you can argue with the data all day long, but when you have 100 million examples, it's going to be 4.17835% every day,
True.
And you're like, how do you know? Well, because it's been 4.17835. And anyway, and these guys are all about. Go ahead.
And even more so. So how we rate homeowners policies now? So it used to be like you'd have 71909, and then you'd look at the fire protection rating, from the insurance services office, the one that the fire stations all like to use. And years ago, State Farm said, we got better data than that. It's like, we don't need to go off of that. If the fire protection is good, it's going to reflect in the rates in an area. And so anyway, so now they do a zip code +4 rating. So your neighborhood has a rating, and it's based on the loss history in your neighborhood. Then they go out and out and out and out and out, and it's like the further out you get, the less it factors in. So this place has a rate, this place has a rate. They may be slightly different, but it just keeps on doing it. So we've got it narrowed down that much. I mean, I've got more homeowners policies than, we're in a 6-state zone, including Texas, and we're like top 5 in homeowners every year. So anyway,
percent or just numbers
in our agency, just in writing homeowners policy. And so anyway, so we've got a lot of data here, and but yeah, they're that accurate that they can come up with a rate like that. And also, coming out of fire underwriting, it's like we've always been really, really good at writing policies properly and making sure we have enough coverage on the home and making sure we sell the other coverages that people need. And so we've always been extremely profitable for State Farm. And so our rates here are like, 10% lower than the average rate in Arkansas. We've got the best rates in the entire state. Used to be, when I was in underwriting, the best rates were up in Northwest Arkansas. Really? Right now, the best rates are in Hot Springs Village.
And part of it's because we've kept our losses low, right?
Fire
department, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. We've got a good fire department, and we've got, people who take care of their property, and there's things like that factor into it.
Well, and a high percentage of paid off homes. I know that's a factor too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One of the things I'll make note, I'm literally looking across the lake under the power lines at one of our units, and it has a price for the insurance for that rental, and literally across the lake, not 300 yards, it's probably 10 to 18% different, because it literally, like you were saying, it's for, and I think about that and I go, but they're 300 yards apart. Yeah, but it's a 10-minute drive in a fire truck to the other side, if you know what I mean.
Maybe. And there's so many different factors that factor. The base rate is just one thing, Yeah. Somebody asked about, people come in every once in a while, like on autos, like, hey, my auto's getting older. Why isn't my rate going down? It's like, well,
great question.
One factor. That's one factor. Yeah, your auto's getting older, and it's like, yeah, it's but it costs just as much to repair it, maybe even a little bit more, or maybe it's easier to total it out because it's less value. Maybe and plus you're getting older, and at your age, maybe your rate's on the upslope. And there's just so many different things. But if you don't believe that your rate is getting better because your car is getting older, try pricing a new one. Yeah, and you'll see that part of the rate is getting better. But there's dozens of factors that go into it.
And when you look at car insurance from the 5 Mile High view, the cost of my car, the potential loss of my car has a finite number on it.
Right.
My health care, or that is anybody passenger or anybody I hit, has an infinite number on it. Right. The amount of health care it could take to rehabilitate someone, or as my dad says, healthcare is fantastically expensive, but there is still one bargain in healthcare. Do you know what it is, Ike?
What is that?
They will scare you to death for free, no charge. They'll give you an estimate, won't even scare you. No, they won't even scare you for that. Well, I tell you what, we need to wrap up here. Fascinating, honestly, a lot of answers at questions I'd always wanted answered. Let me go to the next one. It seems counterintuitive, but then it seems logical. I thought you had mentioned one time that y'all offered a type of financial services. I think, well, I'm doing insurance. What does insurance, which, let's be frank about it, is that the funds that I pay you are invested by these actuarials based on what the stock market's going to do, based on what the investments will do. It's not just there's not just a magic cloud in the sky that says, okay, we're just going to bequeath these dollars on you because you did or didn't win the lottery. There's a logic to it. There's, as you said, there's an actuarial to all that. But How does that equate into money services or financial services?
People who retire on a set number of dollars and everything, they know how important it is to be safe with that, and who's safer with money than insurance companies. And so anyway, you think of the Great Depression, where the brokerage houses were going under, and banks were struggling and going under, and what kept America's economy afloat? It was the life insurance companies. Because they factor in all the risk and everything, and
they didn't panic.
Yeah. In fact, our State Farm's life insurance company, this is our 100th anniversary this year for State Farm overall. We just had a 100th anniversary celebration back in June. And our life insurance company started in 1929, year of the Great Depression. But the life insurance companies made it through and kept this economy afloat. And so anyway, yeah, we've always had life insurance since 1929. We've had health insurance in different ways, not full medical plans, but we do have disability policies and hospital income policies, things like that. So anyway, and so years ago, when I started as an agent, like I said, almost 25 years ago, we started getting into other things, and so I got registered to do mutual funds, and then eventually they came up with variable annuities and all that. And it's kind of changed over the years. 2008, when the big crash happened, we had been doing a lot of our bigger policies with another insurance company that we partnered with.
Yeah.
And but they got whacked really badly with the financial crisis. So they broke off. State Farm broke off the relationship with them. And so anyway, we and then the mutual funds, we've had some problems with, compliance reasons, government regulations, and all that. They kept going all the way back to the Obama administration, when they had a Department of Labor rules coming out and everything, and it kind of challenged the way that independent State Farm contractors dealt with the company and the control that the government had over our employees who are not State Farm employees. And anyways, so they kind of cut us out of mutual funds for a while. And so now we're back, fully back in with mutual funds and annuity products that we've partnered with for mutual funds, BlackRock, the biggest money manager in the world, $8 trillion under assets under management, that is. American Funds, the biggest managed fund company in America that consistently beat their Lipper averages. I mean, just great. We have 140 funds to choose from. Jackson National is we've partnered with Jackson National for our variable annuities, and they're the biggest variable annuity company in America. And so anyway, we got fantastic products that we have with them. I mean,
well, let me ask you. So for the laity, and I consider myself very much that in this instance.
Yep.
I could choose a wealth advisor, or I could come see you. I mean, are those similar, or is it a different thing?
There are similarities. Yeah, absolutely. If you go to somebody represents stock company, or a stockbroking company or something like that. Raymond James, Edward Jones. There's so many of them out there. Wells Fargo, Merrill Lynch. So many of them out there. They have access to things that I don't, like individual stocks and bonds and things like that. Where we're more mutual funds and annuities. They have less of an emphasis on the life insurance products and the annuity products than we do. I'm not trying to get anybody rich. I'm just trying to keep people from getting poor. We're risk managers at heart.
It's what you were saying, and I immediately picked up on. Yes, you can buy a specific, or someone else could buy a specific stock with a tremendous amount more risk, and
right.
This is a risk averse solution that still turns a reward or a return, right?
Mm-hmm. Right, absolutely. In fact, I mean, I've got one product. I can't really talk about it in a forum like this, but one product that gets you out there with all the rewards of the stock market with less risk than you have in the safest investments, just because there's downside protection.
Yeah. And now how would I talk with you about that? I would call 1-501. What's that number?
501-984-4100.
4100, 984-4100. Okay, go
Yeah.
ahead. I'm sorry. Yes, please.
So anyway, I mean, there's just things that we can do. Is like, man, you want a great return on your money, and we eat the downside risk for you, up to a point, and don't charge you a fee for it. It's like, I mean, who wouldn't want to at least explore something like that?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
And I got to tell you what goes through my mind here as you talk about this. There's a lot of talk, understandably, and I'm very for it. And I think just across the street from you is the Village Hardware. Okay.
yes.
And we talk. You have a similarity with them that may not be apparent to everybody. But we talk about buying local. Well, we're buying local, but we're working with a national company, right? Because Village Hardware work is assigned, and you're with State Farm. And here's the deal. I see the benefit of working with a multinational or a very, very large company. I see that, no question, stability, that kind of thing. But I need my guy, like you. I need my guy who will go and petition to the company and go, "Whoa, here's how we do that." Because this is, we're gonna take care of Dennis here. Is that
Seems
what we're
I've been
talking
doing
about?
that all afternoon long, just going to bat for customers, for claims issues or underwriting issues. Yeah.
Well, I heard you talking about with the actuarials. Honestly, understanding the inflationary causes and understanding the numbers behind that. Honestly, when there are, and I mean literally, experts that know what it costs, they know, not we suspect, we actually know because we're actuarials. It's a whole lot harder to argue with those people, especially when they have 25, 30 years of literally plus or minus a couple of percent, right?
Yeah. Let me tell you a story about that. So back when I was in underwriting, so I would have people call me and they'd say, "Hey, you guys are canceling coverage on this guy." And I mean, we used to actually look at each one and we would make the decision. And we need to non-renew this one. We need to raise deductibles or something like that. And so anyway, we'd get a call from an agent. "Oh, you can't do it to this guy. He's been a customer forever. You've got all these different policies. He's center of influence in the community."
But you don't understand. This is Joe. You don't understand. You can't do that to Joe.
Yeah, we'll send a warning letter, and any more claims we might non-renew you or something like that. We'll go ahead and renew it. So when they came up with that consumer rating index, the actuaries went back and they looked at all these underwriting decisions that people like me had overturned, and they looked at the loss history in the years after those decisions, and it was horrendous. It was horrendous. I mean, it was awful. We were making the worst decisions for the company, and so the actuaries basically had yanked a lot of that appeal ability away from us. So people call and say, "Hey, can you fight for me?" It's like, I might be able to, but there's some of them I just can't. Is that I send it in. It's like, nope, it's not eligible for appeal. And so anyway, they really are relying on those models, and anyway, and which is kind of tough because it happens to good customers and people that we know and over here, and it's like, but it reflects in the rate stability we've had over here and the low rates we have. So yeah, we're not making exceptions for everybody that we used to make exceptions for, but the vast majority of people who don't have a lot of claims, they're benefiting from that because we're making good underwriting decisions based on algorithms and statistics and things like that. So anyway, it's it's just things have changed. Things are so much more scientific and data analytic than they ever used to be.
So my dad had a quote. We have the printing company in Little Rock, and he said the only way you typically go broke is by doing people favors. You think, well, I'll just do you this one favor, and I'll just do you this one favor, and then next thing you know, everything's an exception, and then the numbers don't fit, and it's coming out of somebody's pocket, right?
Right. Yeah. And that being said, I mean, there are some things that I can call and in some cases, and I can get a better decision than what the claims adjuster or the underwriter said, but it's harder than it used to be. But it's still between me and my team. We go to bat for people all the time because, there's lots of square pegs and round holes around here.
Yeah.
Just in anything you do business with, it's like, I understand what you're looking at, but if you look at it this way, and in order to make an appeal, you got to have information that the underwriters or the claims adjusters did not take into account when they made their decision. And there's all sorts of opportunity. Like somebody had 3 water claims or something like that, but they've installed a water leak detection system in a shut off system or something like that. That's something. Hey, if you get canceled for that activity, I mean, I've got that in my quiver where I can go to battle for you and say, hey, look, yeah, I know it's been a problem in the past, but they did this. They did all this to mitigate future losses. And I don't know what they're going to do with this policy in particular that I'm talking about, but I'm ready for the appeal should there be any kind of adverse underwriting action.
There's a factor you didn't know about. There's an
yeah, they don't know about that.
Well, let me tell you about a factor that not everybody else knows about. We talked about joy. It seems like you got a lot of people working in that building these days. What's going on now? Give me a rundown.
We blew up this year. We went from 6 employees to 10.
Wow.
And
1 year.
One time we have 6 trainees going on at the same time. I mean, we've had some, it's been a challenge. We spent several months just training people, getting people licensed and all that. And there's been, some of the service hiccups and everything that happens when you have people who are not experienced, and we're used to having more experience than we do. And but that being said, here it is all these months later down the road, and we're clicking on all cylinders, and got an employee who moved away. She fell in love, moved away. She's back. She's a registered rep now, so she can help with investments. We've got I've got a team of 10 people, and I've never had this kind of talent in my office. I mean, just like to a person, just high caliber people, and we're crushing. We're setting office records. We're among the most successful agencies in the whole 6-state zone. And anyway, and so very proud of what we've built here. And it's the kind of structure that we have now, where people who aren't going anywhere anytime soon, that I can do this forever. I don't have to retire. If I have a team of this caliber, I can keep on working, because it takes a lot of the stress away.
I got it. But let me give you a little pat on the shoulder here. Didn't happen overnight. It's only taken 25 years. Only took 25 years.
Only 25 years. Yeah. Yeah. And I think of what we did now, and what we're doing now. And my fellow agents, we had a meeting a couple weeks ago in Little Rock. It's like, Mike, you were just crushing it. You're crushing it. It's like, you're a rock star. And it's like, yeah, we're doing so much better than we did even like 4 or 5 years ago. It's like, but you think back 4 or 5 years ago, they were coming to the meetings and saying, Ike, you're a rock star. So it's not like we went from bad to good. It's like we went from really good to really, really good. So anyway, very, very proud of what we built over here.
Well deserved. Let me. We got a couple of things I wanted to touch on. Then we need to wrap up. When we talked about it, I'm very sincere when I say this. There's a lot of people who talk about community spirit. Not everybody whips out their checkbook. We're talking about the Boys and Girls Club Gala. What is that? And this is a little ways off in the future. It's going to be in March, but give us a teaser. What's going on there?
Yeah, so we've had this several years at the Coronado Center. It's moving back to March. So we went from a winter gala to a spring gala to a earlier in the spring gala. So we're back to, I think it's March 16th.
Yeah.
It'll be at the Coronado Center. We always have a really good band that plays, and a great dinner. It's catered by Gina's Catering out of Benton. They are big supporters of the Boys and Girls Club there, and cater all their events. And I've never had anything that they've served that's not been top notch. It's really, really good. And
now anyway, the purpose is what now?
It is to raise funds for the Boys and Girls Club. So So our Boys and Girls Club, which is located, the Cedar Mountain Club is located
just across the street from you. Yeah.
Yeah, almost right across the street from me, and just right up the road. And so we've got 75 kids that come after school, 75 to 100 kids every day. And actually, it's closer to 100. And in the summertime, we have like 150 kids a day. And so it's after school and summer programs. And I mean, just they do so many wonderful things. And plus, we also have Great Futures Daycare on Carmona Road, right inside.
I didn't know that.
That's part of our club. Yeah. Yeah, it's over by
the Methodist Church. Yeah. Methodist Church region.
Church, right across from there.
And I've got to say, for those that don't know, we're once again the 5 Mile High View. I don't think, we will soon. I don't think we're going to know for decades, really, the true value that the Boys and Girls Club bring. That is a essential. There are working moms and dads. We look at people like you and I that are independently self-employed or mostly or retirees along the lake, and we think about that. Well, there's always families in the village, and those it may be even harder for youth to have a program after that because relatively there's percentage-wise so few based on the rest of the people. But the Boys and Girls Club does the Lord's work, in my opinion. Those are wonderful, wonderful people. Yeah,
they are fantastic. We and I've been involved with the club since I moved here, just about. And we've for a while there we had some pretty rough years. It's really hard raising funds for a facility that big, and so we struggled, especially in the summer times when we had summer programs, expenses were up, and people were out on vacation. And anyway, we joined up.
It was in doubt for a while.
It was, yeah, and between me and people like Bob Smith, Rick Cash, people like that who
Scott DeBeer and Arvest Bank, those guys.
Well, okay, so Scott came along right at the time where we were struggling the most, and he was a big part of getting us to merge with the Saline County Club, which is up in Benton. And so anyway, so we were taken in by the Saline County Club, and that was a top-notch club. I mean, they did so many things really, really well, great fundraising and all that. And so anyway, they saw potential in us and rescued our club. And now the club is just really, really thriving. And so is the daycare. A few years later, we picked up the daycare that had been run by Good Samaritan. And Good Samaritan was trying to get out of the daycare business. It's not their forte. It's like, well, it's not our forte either, but it's not the only daycare that in the Boys and Girls Club system. So it's like, it's been done before, so let's see if we can do it. And they do a great job, and a very valuable job for parents of really young kids. And so anyway, and there's plenty of them here in the village. I mean,
well, my grandbabies go there. My twin daughter grandbabies.
Oh, really?
Awesome. Twins.
Awesome. Yeah, I think they've got like 75 kids there. So anyway, it's
a top-notch place. It is. Well, I tell you what, and we need to wrap it up. Man, so happy to have you. This seems like a day that needed to be coming for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we just put it off too long, I guess.
No problem. 501-984 4100. And honestly, I think what people need to know.
I say that as an old field artillery guy. Is like an old field artillery guy. You got to say your numbers separately, 4100. So anyway.
Well, I don't
say 9 or 84 though. I just
say 9 or 84.
Yeah, I don't say 9er anymore, but I do the 4100. Yes,
4100. Well, because 9 or 800 sounds like you're an airline pilot or something.
Yeah, 9 or 84 4100.
For our good friends at State Farm, just across from Sonic. We're going to come back in a minute. I got more to talk with you about. We'll be back next time. Thanks for joining us. We will talk to you soon.
Thanks for watching and listening to Hot Springs Village Inside Out, a weekly podcast starring Hot Springs Village, Arkansas. Visit the website at hotspringsvillageinsideout.com.